What's cracking, everyone? My name is Ryan, and today we're taking a look at the new Hifiman Ananda Nano. Now, this headphone retails in at $599, and I would like to send a special thank you to Audio46, who did loan this over to me so that I could do this review. I will be sending this back sometime shortly after this video posts. So, the Ananda Nano is aptly named in that this is the third iteration now of the Ananda series of Hifiman headphones, and the Nano refers to a nano thickness diaphragm on the driver that is something in reference to the Sesvara. And this also does have these stealth magnets, as well as we saw in the second iteration of the Ananda. Now, this is a 14 ohm driver and has a sensitivity of 96 dB per milliwatt. So this is going to be very easy to drive. In fact, Hifiman even says that this is considered more of their portable headphone so that you can plug it into multiple sources, even something as simple as a phone, to power this. And we'll talk more about that as we get into sound. But first, let's take a look at what you get inside the box. All right, so when you first open the box, you are greeted with a case. And I was very excited to see this because other Hifimans I have had did not have a case. This has got a black zippered case, kind of a nod to the portability of this. Inside was the headphone and then a cable. And I gotta say, the cable is 9 feet long. Why? I'm still baffled by this, of the length of the cable, because if this is truly a portable headphone, are you going to like plug it in and then have your friend that's like sitting in the back car or maybe the back of the bus or something hanging on to your source, plugging it in so that you can stretch it all the way to the end? And anyways, the cable's really long, in case you haven't gathered that already. So that actually stayed inside the box. I had plenty of other cables that terminated to dual 3.5 mil like this is. So I was able to listen on plenty of other cables through this, but we'll move on from that. Now, talking about build and comfort of the headphone, I mean, these are built really well. This is solid metal. It's got that window shade grill that's metal. The yokes are metal. It's almost like a brush material. The adjustment part here, I think this is like a plastic or maybe even a wood type material, but it's really solid. You get these nice notches here, so it's a good tactile adjustment to it. It's got a suspension system here as well, and this is like a leather strap, I would say. Definitely feels leather anyway on the suspension. There's really good clamp force, maybe a little bit too much clamp force, but you know, it does work really well. You get cup swivel, which I always think is a nice thing. And then the pads are a leather type material pad. It's got kind of a velour type surface to it, and it seems to be a fenestrated pad as well. They are very comfortable and plush. Now, one thing I will note on the build being metal is that I do think this material may scratch or nick easy. And I only say that because when I did receive these, I actually have a nick on the bottom of them that they came that way. I don't know if they knocked around or something, or maybe that's why this was a demo unit, but that is something to be aware of on the headphone. And then comfort wise, these are comfortable for the most part. I do get some discomfort after wearing them a short amount of time on the top of my head. And that could be due to the fact that they are clampy, and they clamp well here so that the suspension's maybe not doing everything it's supposed to do for my head shape, but I adjust them a little bit. Comfort, discomfort goes away. So, could just be something with the shape of my head, and also with the asymmetrical shape of the headphone cups. These are going to sit low, and somebody with a thick beard or something, that may bother you, but this is something we see on the Aria. It's a very Hifiman type headphone. So just, note that with the build and comfort. All that out of the way, let's talk about sound. All right, so starting with bass first, which I typically do, I actually want to talk about two different tracks here from two different genres. First one is called Aftertaste by Zed's Dead, Aiden, and Hunter. Now, this particular track is an EDM electronic track, but then the other one I want to bring up is called Kashmir by Marson, and this one is more of a classical jazz type track. The reason why I bring both of these up is both of these have good bass in them for totally different instruments and different ways of presenting it. In the electronic track, as you can imagine, it's that pulsating, pounding bass that is kind of like that club feel to it, and it should be impactful if bass is done right, and it's done right on the Nano. You get good impact of that bass, it thumps along, it is separated from the rest of the mix, it is full, it is not boomy. It's not bloated for sure, and it doesn't overpower the mids. It's just done really well, and it's fast. And the other track, Kashmir, as I mentioned, being more classical jazzy type sound, it's got some scratchy guitar that's going on at the beginning and all throughout the mix, and you feel that, you hear that. And then there's a part where all instruments kind of just drop out and you only hear the bass. And the bass is, again, just very full and felt, and is done so well on the Nano, and I was pleasantly surprised. And I think it is a nod to the Nano thickness diaphragm. You know, they talk about the fact that it's supposed to add more dynamics, and it's supposed to, you know, give some more impact and have a lot of speed to it. And both of these tracks exampled that really well. All right, and so as we get into mid-range, I wanted to see if, you know, that nice bass kind of carried into mids, and it does. I think mid-range on this is also very full and has some good impact, some good dynamics to it. And one track in particular I wanted to bring up is actually a metal track, and it's called My Curse by Killswitch Engaged. Now, this is an older track. It's one I used to rock out to when I was younger, and I played it on the Nano because it kept up really well with the speed, you know, the transients that I talked about, but the guitar just was very crunchy, was how an electric guitar during metal should sound, in my opinion. It was fast, it had a bite to it, and I just, you know, was banging my head to this thing and just really enjoying this track. And drums, you know, drums had pop to them. They weren't, you know, I'm not talking about ZMF or a Focal type punch and slam, but it's still present. And it really made me think of another headphone, and it just happened to be the Meze 109 Pro. Now, I have the 109 Pro, so I quickly switched over to that headphone listening to the same track, and there's a lot of similarities between the two. I would say the biggest difference would be the fact this is planar, so at times can sound a little more unnatural than natural compared to like the 109 Pro, but I felt like dynamics were pretty similar between the two, and the mid-range was, because both headphones, this one especially, has enough mid-range as you get into the upper registry of it that, you know, vocalists and things sound right, but they're not mid-forward and they're not pushed into your face or pushed into your ear, and they've got good space around you as you're listening to them. And speaking of space and details, let's talk about treble now next. All right, so as we talk about treble, I want to bring up a track again, and this track is called Muse by Gretchen Parlato and Lionel Luke. Hopefully I said their names right. This is an interesting track because there is a lot of things going on in this track. First of all, there are instruments that are being played in your left and right ears separately. Now, the guitar that's being played in the right, the strings are being strung in a way that they're actually vibrating against the bridge. And you can definitely pick that up on the Nano, and was just excellent to show off the details of this. But when I was listening to that, I was like, it sounds right, but something just sounded different to it. So again, I switched back to the Meze 109 Pro and listened to the same track, and I got good details out of that as well. But that rattling of that string, I still heard it, but it sounded a little bit more natural, and a little bit more natural like a string, you know, vibrating against a wood instrument. Well, on the Nano, what's going on here is this has got more of a metallic timbre to it, I think, when you get into treble especially. And it's not something I picked up right away until I started A-Bing with a more natural sounding headphone, in my opinion. Now, this being a planar, it can do some of those unnatural things. Now, going back to this track, there are some vocals that come through very, very clear, showing off that region of this headphone, but then there is a touch of sibilance on her voice, on her S's especially, that I picked up. So I do think this has got some of that brightness that comes through with Hifiman's. I think it comes through with this headphone also, probably not quite as much as I'd heard in others. But then I will say, going back to EDM electronic music, any digitized music, I was starting to then easily pick out those metallic sounds a little bit more. And it's really hard to put into words what a metallic timbre sounds like until you hear it and you're able to compare it to something else. There's another track. It's called Rude Boy by Zed's Dead. Now, this particular track has like this really harsh snare that comes through, and it's a digitized snare, but when it comes through and hits, it's just kind of like made me wince a little bit, and it was like a track I needed to kind of move on from. But as I started listening to other EDM tracks, yes, this is fast and can keep up with those. You just got to be careful, because if they have a lot of bright digitized sounds in there, it can sometimes get piercing and it can get stabby in your ears, and you're just like, not necessarily wanting to hear that. But then when I listen to this on more natural instruments, classical arrangements and jazz and things like that, blues music that had that nice electric guitar, I didn't get that as much. So that's where I go back to that metallic timbre and how sometimes you can pick it out, sometimes it's okay. Overall, though, I gotta say, the Nano has been an excellent experience for me. I've enjoyed it. I think Hifiman's got a winner here. I think also this headphone has really good imaging. It's got good separation. It's got good detail, speed, and stage. This is an excellent gaming headphone, guys. I mean, yeah, this is a really good headphone to play games and to listen to music on, and probably would be one of my recommendations if somebody wanted to spend that amount of money, because it's also very easy to drive. So you don't need something crazy to power this and to enjoy some games and some music. And it's fantastic. I mean, the bass, the mid-range, the treble, they're separated out enough to where, yeah, sometimes that can be a little unnatural of a sound, but that also lends really well to gaming for that type of genre of music. Gaming is, anyways, you get what I'm saying. So great gaming headphone, guys, as far as that goes. So hopefully this helped you guys. If you did like this video, please smash that like button. And if you haven't done so already, I would highly appreciate if you subscribe to the channel, because, well, I've got another headphone around the corner that I'll be doing a review on as well. Stay tuned for that. I thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next one.